tonight, we'll take you back to Conception Bay North, where residents are sifting through what's left of their homes after the summer wildfires. That story and...
I'm Peter Cowan, live in Labrador West, where the man who wants to return power is promising more power. I'll tell you about it coming up on Here and Now.
Our province has seen a steady increase in break and enters, overdoses, shelters-in-place orders. This is the Liberal legacy on crime.
The PCs turned their attention to law and order in Deer Lake today.
Through our pay, it doesn't cost any more to do it.
More careless, probably, in the way they treat us.
I'm here in St. Brendan's talking to people about the effect a smaller ferry will have on the traveling public. That story tonight on Here and Now.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Well, the Liberal tour continues across Labrador. Today, Liberal leader John Hogan is talking about why his government's hydro deal with Quebec will be good for Western Labrador. Peter Cowan is live at the campaign headquarters in Labrador City. So, Peter, what is Hogan promising?
Yeah, his message as he's chatting with supporters right behind me is that he's going to follow through on something that's already part of that deal with Quebec. He'll ensure that a new transmission line is built here to Labrador West.
One of our big problems is electrical power.
It's rare for voters to bring up electricity as their top issue, but in Western Labrador, it's on a lot of people's minds.
We need power here to develop this town.
The mines, homes, and businesses use up all the power. Even with Churchill Falls nearby, new mining projects can't happen. So the Liberal leader, who wants to return to power, promised more power.
Without the power, there's really no point of talking about other mining opportunities. It is really necessary. It is the first step. Make sure that they have the power to develop the mine.
It's part of the deal with Quebec announced months ago, so not a new promise. But the leader is taking every chance he can to highlight the MOU.
I think it's important to confirm publicly on the record that I am and that our government is committed to making sure that the new power, 4 times the power that will be available to NL Hydro.
Government isn't paying for the new cost of the lines. New projects will likely have to contribute. One of the new projects proposed for this area is the Kami mine, which could mean 600 jobs, but it needs power.
Well, right now we're limited in terms of power in the region. So there's no new projects that could happen if there's no new power in the region.
Talk of new power lines has happened before, but this time the outgoing mayor of Wabash hopes the government is serious.
Better late than never, I guess, to see it develop. But it has to benefit the people of Labrador first before anybody else.
The other issue that people are talking about a lot in this area is housing, especially for seniors who traditionally haven't stayed in the community, but now in greater and greater numbers want to age here. And the Premier did have a promise for them, 40 new units. Now exactly who will build it, that's still up in the air. Reporting live in Labrador City, I'm Peter Cowan for Here and Now.
Well, switching to the Progressive Conservative campaign now, PC leader Tony Wakeham made his first out-of-town stop in Deer Lake, visiting the district that's been held for the past 10 years by former Liberal premiers. Wakeham and his team hope to turn that seat Tory blue. Terry Roberts explains.
Dozens of new police officers, more prosecutors, more help for those with mental health challenges. Law and order was front and center on Tuesday for the Progressive Conservatives. Flanked by 5 of his West Coast candidates, leader Tony Wakeham pledged another big spend to create safer communities.
Our police services are stretched too thin, responding to calls but unable to provide thorough investigations.
Funding to hire 46 new police officers, a more robust court system, and the establishment of new mental health treatment centers.
We will support these centers with the creation of new mobile mental health crises teams.
So that's $19 million in new spending. Add that to the nearly $50 million in healthcare announcements by the PCs on Tuesday. Wakeham says he'll pay for his promises by cutting what he calls wasteful Liberal spending.
Less than what the Liberals have spent on the lease of the Comfort Inn and the operating costs for the last 3 years, spending almost $40 million on a failed project.
Wakeham says people no longer feel safe in their communities, and he plans to change that.
The Liberals have failed to take public safety seriously, but we're going to lead where they failed.
The PCs unveiled their Safer Communities Action Plan here in Deer Lake. For a decade, Humber-Gross-Mourne has been represented by Liberal premiers. But Andrew Ferry and Dwight Ball are out of the picture. And this time the PCs smell an opportunity. This was the leader's first campaign stop outside of St. John's. The PC candidate is the former mayor of Deer Lake, a veteran campaigner. If the sign war is any indication, the race here in Humber-Gross-Mourne is going to be much tighter this time around. Mike Guzny is dominating when it comes to the placement of signs on private property. Signs he can only put in place with the permission of the homeowner.
There's a lot of signs in typically places where there wouldn't be, and again, they're all specifically placed on lawns by request. I mean, Howley, the Northern Peninsula, not just specifically saying in Deer Lake. So in that tally of 650, that's throughout the district, and a couple days into a campaign, I think that's quite an indicator of people really wanting change.
Why are you supporting Mike Guzny?
Because I think he's a wonderful man and he'll do what he can for us and for everybody around town.
The reason why I support Mike is that I see a man that also got the same beliefs. He's got hope, he's got faith, he understands the seniors, and he's there to support the young.
It's still early in the campaign, and Tony Wakeham is hoping for many more welcomes like this. Terry Roberts, CBC News, Deer Lake.
Well, the NDP says it has a plan to build 1,000 public housing units in Newfoundland and Labrador annually. The party says the wait list for affordable housing is unacceptably long, and cutting it down must be a priority for whichever party forms the next government. Here now's Mark Quinn reports.
Housing and homelessness have been a long-standing issue with me long before I was even MHA for St. John's Centre.
The NDP says both Liberal and Progressive Conservative provincial governments have failed to address the public housing crisis. But party leader Jim Dinn says the NDP has a plan to start fixing it. Dinn is promising to create a new Crown corporation called NL Homes that will raise money to build 1,000 public housing units annually.
A new Democratic Party's home plan will cost $150 million a year, a large investment in housing, but that equals a large investment in the well-being of the people and the communities of our province.
Dinn said the wait list for public housing in this province has grown to about 2,500 people. The party invited Shirley Gallagher to its election announcement to share her experience looking for an affordable place to live. Gallagher came home to Newfoundland from Alberta to retire, and she says she couch surfed for 8 months before finding an apartment. Then she said something unexpected, that the federal government's immigration policies are to blame.
Yes, that's why there's a crisis. I mean, there let too many people in, apparently, obviously, and that's why, I mean, I'm a Canadian citizen. I worked 50 years of my life, and I can't afford a house. This is
The NDP quickly distanced itself from the idea that immigrants have created the housing crisis.
I agree that the problem is to do with housing availability. I've always said that anyone who calls this place home deserves a place to live. This is not, from our point of view, it's not about people, it's about a failure in government to actually come up with deeply affordable housing.
Dinn said if the NDP doesn't form the next provincial government, it will do everything in its power to pressure the next party that does to make affordable public housing a priority. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the Churchill Falls Memorandum of Understanding with Quebec has already become a top issue in the opening days of this provincial election. And in Quebec, Premier Francois Legault's party released an ad promoting the deal, saying his government has signed an agreement with Newfoundland guaranteeing Quebecers low-cost electricity for 50 years. Now, the goal for both provinces is to have the Churchill Falls MOU finalized by April of next year. Meantime, a Canadian press article released yesterday cites an unnamed source within Hydro-Quebec who says it's unlikely the MOU can be changed, suggesting the deal on the table is as good as it will get for this province. CBC has not verified the identity of that source. Hydro-Quebec declined an interview request from CBC and offered no comment on that story. But here's what some party leaders had to say about the article on the campaign trail today.
I don't respond to anonymous sources. I turn around and hold firm that the people of Newfoundland and Labrador deserve to be the primary beneficiaries of our resources, and I will continue to say that. And right now, we need to have an independent analysis done of that MOU. The only people speaking out in favor of that MOU right now are the people that negotiated it.
To me, what we wanted is an oversight panel to make sure we have the questions answered as to whether it's a good deal. And then when it comes down, when that deal is put on the table, when we have it, which is how we do it in any other collective bargaining, put the final deal there and then we'll vote on it, if that's what we're doing. But to turn this into an election issue right now is so wrong, and making the promises that I'm hearing on both sides is wrong. All we said is we want the oversight.
Meantime, Liberal leader John Hogan says the negotiating team is still fighting for the best possible deal.
I think we're on the right path. I think there's going to be, and there should be, intense and tough negotiations, because I don't think Newfoundland and Labrador should give what it hasn't agreed to, and should make sure that we get every inch and every ounce of financial upside that we can from that agreement. And those negotiations, in terms of billions and billions of dollars, they should and they will be tough. But I'm confident that we have the right team.
The province's medical association is calling on elections candidates to fund overhead for doctors who are practicing in the community who provide services that are insured through MCP. Last month, the province committed to a pilot project to fund overhead for some nurse practitioners who are also outside the health authorities. Doctors say they wanted something similar in their last round of contract talks, but were denied.
You know, we've got a lot of doctors who are very unhappy with this, and we're looking for a commitment. And doctors right now are feeling really disrespected by this decision that came through, and they're feeling really unappreciated.
Now doctors want to know where each political party stands on the issue. Liberal leader John Hogan says he's heard these concerns before from doctors in the health accord.
One of the reasons to move to family care teams was to allow NLHS to fund that, and so they could practice medicine and not have to worry about the cost of overhead. Of course, we're not going to force that decision on everybody. Some people still want to practice family medicine in the old way. And we've been there over the last number of years to certainly provide creative incentives for all kinds of medical practitioners to work here in Newfoundland and Labrador. And we'll continue to do that.
PC leader Tony Wakeham says he would absolutely support doctors' requests to cover overhead costs.
I think that when you try to pigeonhole our professionals, like our primary care doctors, into one model or the other, that does not help us recruit. That actually is a deterrent. What we ought to be doing is reaching out to the Medical Association, to our primary care physicians, and asking them, how would you like to practice here in Newfoundland and Labrador?
Meanwhile, the NDP say it's something they'd consider.
Yeah, if that's about improving healthcare, that's something we would enter into discussions with the NLMA as well. It's something worth considering.
The Medical Association says it's going to keep pressing this issue during the election campaign. They also say they've got a list of other concerns that they've written to the party leaders about. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, politicians aren't the only ones touring the province this week. Targa Newfoundland drivers have been tearing up the island's roadways. About 30 teams are taking part in the popular road race that sees drivers head as far west as Leading Tickles and Point Leamington before finishing in Brigus. This year's race saw a major milestone. Drivers completed the 1,000th stage since it began in 2002. Tonight, the drivers put their Hot Wheels in park for a car show in Clarenville. Targa finishes up tomorrow at the traditional finish line in Brigus.
When I moved on this property, I felt safe.
A birthday she won't forget. A Western Bay woman returns to what's left of her home following the summer's wildfires in Conception Bay North.
Well, the clouds hanging around, especially up across parts of Labrador, coastal areas of the island as well, particularly along the northeast coast. There's a few showers still left to fall as we head through the night tonight, so expect that up across parts of Labrador and again along the northeast coast. But there is a big warm up on the way as we head through the day tomorrow as we get into southwesterly winds. They're going to be a bit breezy tomorrow. Then we'll see a big drop in temperatures. I'll break it all down for you coming up a little later.
wildfire in Conception Bay North may be under control, but residents are still sifting through the ruins where their homes once stood. It's been 2 weeks since evacuation orders were lifted and people were allowed to return. Here Now's Ryan Cook was there as one resident searched the rubble for a piece of family history.
This was home. This was security, my safe space, a roof over my head. Yeah, it's hard seeing it like this, but it was home.
It's Vanessa Butler's birthday, spent watching a team of volunteers sifting through the ash and twisted metal where her house once stood in Western Bay.
I felt comfort by the pond. You know, it reminded me of my grandfather's place, my Nan and Pop's place.
Western Bay was evacuated on August 4th, one day after a wildfire erupted in nearby Kingston. The fire, being investigated as arson, ripped through Conception Bay's north shore, destroying nearly 200 homes, 86 here in Western Bay alone. With most of her worldly possessions turned to dust, Butler's just hoping to find a mug, the last physical connection she has to her late grandfather.
They're both gone now, and so all I have is like a few of their trinkets, and the only thing I had from my grandfather was the mug.
Enter Team Rubicon, a group led by Canadian Armed Forces veterans with a specialty in disaster relief.
We go through the rubble and just try to find any of those memories, anything that they can hold in their hand to keep moving forward.
Today's mission doesn't look hopeful. The fire burned so hot, it twisted the home's steel door like a pretzel. They sift and sift, but there's very little to be found. Her child's first outfit, gone. Family photos, precious mementos, all burned. But not everything was lost.
As I was watching them sift through, and I seen one of the gentlemen come up, and he had, all I could see was like just that, and I knew. I said, that's the mug.
It's a moment Team Rubicon will remember, one that really encapsulates their time here on the North Shore.
I don't think there's words for me to describe that for you. There's a lot of emotions involved, but being able to bring a bit of light to these people's families absolutely makes it worthwhile being on this team.
I said yesterday to the universe, I said if I could get one birthday miracle, it would be to find that. And we did.
Damaged, sure, but worth repairing. Ryan Cook, CBC News, Western Bay.
Well, the mother of a fish harvester who was lost at sea is demanding more Coast Guard resources in Labrador. Jeanette Russell lost her son, Mark, in a fatal fishing incident 4 years ago. Russell was among 24 people who rallied outside the Atlantic Coast Guard headquarters in St. John's today. The CBC's Todd O'Brien has more.
4 years ago, Mark Russell and Joey Jenkins didn't return from a fishing trip off Mary's Harbor in Labrador. Their bodies were never found, and neither was the vessel, the Island Lady. Today, Jeanette Russell, Mark's mother, and 24 people, including a lot of FFAW members, gathered outside Coast Guard headquarters in St. John's. They're protesting the lack of Coast Guard facilities in Labrador.
My son was a fish harvester. The ocean was his workplace, and he was not securely protected in his workplace on the same scale as his counterparts in Newfoundland and the rest of Atlantic Canada. So we are here today to protest the failure of the Canadian Coast Guard to invest in Labrador.
They want search and rescue stations established in Labrador and a cormorant helicopter. Currently, there are 7 such stations on the island of Newfoundland, but none north of St. Anthony.
If the lifeboat station in St. Anthony is meant to be patrolling off the coast of Labrador, why is there a joke in Labrador that the only time we see the Canadian Coast Guard is when the salmon are running and the berries are ripe? So if it's so easy, why aren't they more present?
Jeanette Russell says she feels her pleas are not being heard by people in government, but she's vowing to keep up the fight and keep up the pressure to get better Coast Guard facilities in Labrador. Todd O'Brien, CBC News, St. John's.
So Ashley, I'm interested in hearing about this warm-up tomorrow that you mentioned.
Yeah, so lots of us are actually going to see those temperatures climb as we head through the day tomorrow, but others are actually going to see temperatures cool down as we head through tomorrow, and it's all because of a cold front that's going to move through. Today, we've definitely been seeing some mild air, particularly in southwesterly flow for Lab West, and then parts of the island as well, seeing some fairly mild temperatures. On the other side of this cold front, though, there is certainly some much colder air. If we take a look at those daytime highs today, only reaching 9 degrees in Makkovik, 12 degrees in Happy Valley Goose Bay, but you head over to Lab City, 24 degrees this afternoon. Those temperatures quite mild as well for parts of Central. Grand Falls, Windsor, Deer Lake at about 21 degrees today. And these temperatures are just going to get warmer as we head through the day tomorrow, particularly in Happy Valley Goose Bay, where we will see that warm up. In fact, actually tonight, your temperatures are going to continue to warm up. Look at this, 21 degrees in Churchill Falls, and that warmer air is edging closer and closer. So the 12 degrees that you're seeing right now in Happy Valley Goose Bay, that's the coolest that it will be, at least for the next 24 hours. So we've got a big ridge in the jet stream that's allowing that southwesterly flow, and that is going to continue, like I said, through the day tomorrow. But by the time we get into Thursday night, that cold front will move through, and we'll start to see some of that colder air for the northern portion of Labrador, Lab West, and then eventually the Upper Lake Melville area. You will see a very dramatic drop in temperatures, and that will continue. That colder air will continue to work its way further south as we head through the day on Thursday, and then eventually through the weekend, we'll see some of that cooler air as well across the island portion of the province. Speaking of the long-range forecast, Tropical Storm Gabriel has formed, and as we look ahead to the weekend, right now it's going to stay as a tropical storm for a little while, and then by the time we get into late weekend, we'll start to see it will become a hurricane. Category 1 is forecasted by the time we get into Sunday, it looks like there, and then it's going to take a turn north. Now, if we do see any impacts from this storm, I will keep you posted, but for now we're just watching this because it's going to hang around for a little while. Taking a look at what's going to happen as we head through tonight, I'm going to keep seeing those showers for coastal areas of Labrador, same thing along the northeast coast. The northern peninsula, you will see a few showers through the overnight, but eventually that should clear. But you're going to hang on to the chance of showers up across Labrador for the most part as we head through tonight, and then that cold front will move in. So we'll see that drop in temperature starting in the north by the time we get into tomorrow morning. Eventually, Lab City will see some showers as well, and your drop in temperatures will come late morning. Overall, like I said, those temperatures on the rise. Happy Valley Goose Bay will actually see your temperatures by 16 degrees by tomorrow morning, and most of the island will see those temperatures generally between 11 to 13 degrees, with the exception of the northern peninsula. You'll hang out in the single digits tonight, but things really going to change as we head through tomorrow. Very mild to start the day in Happy Valley Goose Bay, southeastern portions of Labrador, but you'll see this front move through, so you'll see some showers by mid-afternoon. Once those winds shift, which they will, from southwesterly to a more northerly component, your temperatures will drop like a rock. But most of us are going to continue to see that southerly flow. It's going to be breezy tomorrow as well. Most of the province will see those winds gusting somewhere between 40 to as much as 60 kilometers per hour. And as that front continues to move through, that temperature will drop right along with it. Here's your daytime highs tomorrow in the 20s. Like I said, southwesterlies, 50, 60 kilometers per hour. Those of you along the south coast will see those temperatures a little on the cooler side, but still beautiful for this time of year. Looking at the mid to upper teens. And then Labrador, 8-9 degrees for the west and the north, 21 in Happy Valley Goose Bay. But like I said, once those winds shift, your temperature will drop. I'll get into the long range forecast coming up a little later.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, medical lab assistants, or MLAs, can take on a lot of different jobs in the healthcare system, anything from x-rays to blood work to diagnosing patients. And the union representing MLAs says a shortage of those workers is causing dire conditions for staff and patients in the metro region. Here now's Henrika Wilhelm has the details.
It's just another symptom of a healthcare system in crisis.
That is, cancelled blood work appointments today at both St. Clair's Hospital and the Health Sciences Centre in St. John's. Due to staff shortage, it says in the note to patients there, stories about that have been making their way to NAPE.
For example, one day, 160 patients that needed their services, yet we had 2 MLAs available for the entire facility. So they are basically burning out. That's why we got people leaving now. They work 7 consecutive days. Some that I recently spoke to, when they anticipate to get off in the evening or in the morning, they're told they can't get off shift. They're actually mandated to stay.
Service reduction notices have been issued twice within the past week, says Earl, but shortages have been an ongoing issue.
And actually in these notices, they are acknowledging that they've known of these problems, that they seem to have failed to address them, and for people to expect that this is going to continue. I just got a message, again, Majors Path Blood Clinic, which is not far from here. They are working short, for example, today, and they're actually telling the staff there, if it continues as it does today, to anticipate cancellations up to including September the 25th.
A situation that's not just dire for staff, but also patients.
Just again this morning, we have, what I understand, hundreds of people being told that their appointments are cancelled. Some were contacted, some didn't know until they actually got to a site like the Health Science.
Earl wants to see appropriate retention and recruitment plans, including a look at post-secondary program offerings.
Here at the College of North Atlantic and St. John's, there used to be a program. There hasn't been a program since last year that would put out graduates. Only one program in all of Newfoundland right now in Grand Falls, Windsor. So we're not even getting enough graduates.
Earl said a meeting between NAPE and NL Health Services was scheduled for this afternoon. Meanwhile, the health authority has not responded to a CBC News request for comment. Henrika Wilhelm, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, people in the community of St. Brendan's say a replacement ferry servicing the island is not cutting it. While the MV Grace Sparks is in for a refit, the replacement ferry isn't big enough for the job, but the province says the temporary fix is working just fine. Troy Turner has the story.
For this run to St. Brendan's, the Sound of Islay is carrying 5 vehicles. Not quite full to capacity, but there's still not a lot of room on the deck. According to the province, the Sound of Islay is capable of carrying 9 to 10 vehicles, about 5 fewer than the Grace Sparks, which normally services this run.
There's always somebody going. I can't say that there's going to be 10 today and 12 tomorrow, but because 12 wouldn't get on the boat now if they have a vehicle each, right? But there's always somebody on the move, especially when you lose all those things, right? You had to go to Gander, St. John's.
St. Brendan's, an island in Bonavista Bay, has about 125 residents, most of which are seniors.
Medical appointments probably is the biggest thing, right? And a lot of the people are getting a bit older and they need those facilities, you know, but we don't have them here now. Over the years, they've gradually dwindled a little bit. There's very few young families with not as many children in each family. So if you don't have children, the community eventually has to die, right? And we're losing older folks all the time, but while we're here, this is important to us.
We got to go 4 months with a system that's 40% less capacity than we had, when you can have the capacity by sticking in an extra trip that costs us nobody anything. That's just people just being obstinate and won't listen to reason. No, every day the ferry is not going to be full to capacity. No ferry is in any part of the province or any part of the world for that matter, right? But it doesn't have to be.
The Transportation Department would not do an interview. In a prepared statement, it said after review, quote, "It was determined that current demand does not support the need for an additional scheduling trip. Since the Sound of Islay has been in service, there has only been 1 sailing when the first departure from St. Brendan's was at full capacity. The department has also confirmed that no vehicles have been left behind on the morning departure since the Sound of Islay began service." However, the mayor says that's misleading. He says when residents see a lineup of 9 to 10 vehicles, they just go home and do not leave their cars at the dock.
No, there's a time of the year when people travel, and now you're restricted in that, right? So that's, it's just undue hardship when there's no need of it. Well, I heard the Premier on last night talking about what they're going to do for people. I almost wanted to throw up. Listen to what he was saying, because it's false. It's false. You're telling the people, you're giving them false hope, because we're not the only community that's out there that's been treated this way with disrespect. That's what I call it.
After phone calls, emails, letters, and all types of correspondence over the last few years, Bill Broderick says the province is still not listening to the needs of his community. All he can do now, he says, is to continue to make noise with the hope somebody will make the necessary changes. Troy Turner, CBC News, St. Brendan's.
It'll likely take a long time before all losses and damages in the area are known.
They want the aquaculture industry to stay where it is.
Residents here who had left while this was happening have been told they can't go back in.
Well, this is a big week for hockey fans in St. John's and beyond. The Newfoundland Regiment of the Quebec Maritime Hockey League will play its inaugural game Thursday night, and if early ticket sales are any indication, they could become a hot ticket in town. Zach Gowdy has more.
I can't put my finger on why this one is so successful. Whatever it is, we're happy with it.
Glenn Stanford's excited, and so are thousands of hockey fans in this province. The latest hockey team to call this place home are about to take the ice for the first time. The Newfoundland Regiment will play their inaugural game here at Mary Brown Centre on Thursday night. Stanford, the veteran hockey executive, has managed 5 pro and semi-pro teams in his long career, 4 of them here in St. John's. He says the buzz around the regiment is up there with the biggest he's ever seen.
This one has taken off probably, other than the St. John's Ice Caps, it's probably been the most successful launch of a team that we've had in our, since 1991, and it's it really has. It's the Ice Caps were a different breed altogether. We sold out for 3.5 years during the Ice Caps days. This one has that same vibe to it. We have about 2,400 season ticket holders, which is the second best, again, only to the Ice Caps. We have 35 suites in their building that are all sold. Again, second best to the Ice Caps. Never had that with the other 2 teams. And this one does have a special feel to it.
Stanford says those fans can look forward to seeing a competitive team right out of the gate. The regiment have retained about 10 of its players from last season when this team was known as the Acadie Bathurst Titans. Since relocating to St. John's, the team has added 2 players from this province to their roster, Ben Vitch from St. John's and Quinn Norman from Conception Bay South. Having the homegrown talent on the ice will certainly help this team connect with the fans, as will the name, which goes beyond branding. Stanford says this team has a real and ongoing connection with the Royal Newfoundland Regiment, and that connection will be on full display on opening night.
Prior to the game, certainly during the opening ceremonies, during the game, you will see that tie to the Royal Newfoundland Regiment, and we have a pretty nice evening planned.
The Newfoundland Regiment are opening their season with an 8-game homestand here at Mary Brown Centre. Opening night Thursday night is sold out, and Stanford says the other 7 games are going fast. Zach Gowdy, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary is investigating a suspicious fire in Corner Brook. Police say they discovered the fire in the area of Brook Street shortly before 10 p.m. last night. Part of the exterior of a building was on fire near a propane tank. Officers then contacted the Corner Brook Fire Department, which responded and put out the fire. No injuries were reported in that incident. The fire is believed to be suspicious, and the RNC is asking anyone with information or video footage that could assist with that investigation to contact the local detachment. In other news, the annual Agriculture Expo gives people a behind-the-scenes look at where their food comes from and a chance to meet the people who make it. Have a look.
So this is the Ag Expo 2025, and we are so happy to be back here in Corner Brook. And we are showcasing our agriculture industry at this show. We have 15 farmers markets with local product from all over the western and central. They have trucked in. If you want to learn about agriculture, this is the place to be. I think that we need to support our agriculture industry, we need to support our farmers, and we need to build food sustainability here in our province.
This has been a great show. It's one of the biggest ones we've had attendance-wise, and just so many interesting things. The show's been happening for a number of years, but the organizers, our staff, have added some new interesting things, some demos. Right now there's a lot of stress and a lot of concern about the result. I call it 2 droughts, June to July and then July to August. It's affected some of the fruit and vegetable crops, but we have our livestock producers, our dairy farmers, our beef and sheep don't have enough feed for their livestock. So they're going to have to buy it in. It's going to be extremely expensive to bring it in across the ferries onto the island, and even just to buy hay locally, it's in short supply. The Federation's logo is Farmers Helping Farmers, or Farmers for Farmers, and so it's really good to come together and hear that, yeah, I got the same problem. And so it's not just you didn't make some mistake, it's not some inadequacy of yours. It's being able to come together and talk and meet each other, and we're a small industry. And so we mostly know each other across the sectors, especially those of us who've been around a while. but it's good to come together and just support each other, even though we're selling potatoes and a couple of the other farms here are selling potatoes. It's just good to come together and be able to, well, commiserate, but also to celebrate what it is we do.
The high cost of living in this country is being reflected in a new report by Food Banks Canada. It says 1 in 4 Canadian households are struggling just to get food on the table. It also says too many people are spending almost all of their income on essentials like groceries, housing, and transportation. The CBC's Nicole Williams reports.
This food bank in Orillia, Ontario is busier than ever.
Tell me what we're looking at here. What is this?
So we're expanding our fridge and freezers.
Bigger fridges, a bigger kitchen. But bigger isn't better.
So we're supporting around 1,700 individuals per month about 2 years ago. We're now supporting about 2,500 individuals per month. So it's definitely going up. We don't want to grow.
Food banks are great, but they're not, because they are an indication of something that is fundamentally wrong in our society.
The city is one of the latest in Ontario, being pushed to the brink by declaring a food insecurity emergency, stating nearly a third of households in the region are struggling to afford groceries.
So we're seeing this affect every community from coast to coast to coast.
In its annual poverty report card, Food Banks Canada has given this country a D. It highlights recent data from Statistics Canada that shows a 40% increase in poverty and food insecurity in the last 2 years, with a quarter of all households in Canada struggling to afford food.
A lot of people with jobs are now having to stop at the food bank on the way home from work instead of the grocery store because that's just out of reach.
It points to rising youth unemployment and a lack of affordable housing as some of the factors.
Personally, I can see nothing on the horizon that suggests that it's going to get better.
The Liberal government defending the work it's done to make life more affordable.
And the first measure that we implemented was to reduce taxes for 22 million Canadians, exactly to help families across our country. And we can be proud of this.
But Food Banks Canada says more needs to be done to combat food insecurity, including more funding for social supports and updating benefit programs for low-income Canadians. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Orillia, Ontario.
Well, with autumn just around the corner, many of us will be embracing pumpkin patches, hay rides, and if you're a fan of them, corn mazes. A newly created maze on Prince Edward Island features many twists, turns, and a big reveal. The CBC's Sheehan Desjardins reports.
I'm at a corn maze here in Mount Herbert, and joining me to talk more about how something like this all comes together is the designer of this specific corn maze, Awesome Blossom, Sherry Reisner. Thank you so much for having us.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
So tell me, what is this corn maze all about? What does it look like?
What does it look like? Well, it's got, when you see it from up above, it's got smile with a happy face. That's actually on our wedding rings. So we thought, if we're gonna do corn maze, let's give it a little bit of tribute for that. And then, after that, we said, now what are we gonna do for the second part, right? Because we didn't wanna make it too big, right? It's the first time doing it. So he goes, land here. And I went, spaceship.
So how do you make something like this, Sherry?
Well, we just took our little lawnmower. We just planted the corn. We had our neighbor plant the corn. And when it was really, really little, we just decided what we wanted to do on paper and math.
Sherry, I'm gonna put you to the test. Where are we in this corn maze?
We are, where are we in this corn maze? I believe we are, we are on the spaceship right now.
On the spaceship?
I'm gonna challenge you to go in by yourself.
Will you come get me if I don't come out?
Just hail.
All right, I'm all geared up. Got the GoPro. We're gonna give it a whirl.
All right.
Stay to the right.
Good luck.
I will see you soon. Thank you. really came in handy. That was great tips. Yeah, and I remembered when we were at the bottom of the smiley face. Yep. Hit a dead end that we never hit. I don't know what happened there. I'm not sure that was also a right, so
Okay. Oh,
who knows?
Okay.
Got the spaceship, but yes, that was great. Thank you so much. This was so fun. Thank you.
We get a bit of a treat, I guess, tomorrow with the warm-up that's coming, but it's not going to last for very long, right?
It will not. In some cases, very short-lived, in fact, and there's a potential for some snow in the forecast.
Whoa. I'm not ready for that word.
You tell we're heading towards the fall, aren't we? Let's take a look at what's going to happen as we head through our Thursday evening and into Friday morning. So that green and orange and yellow there is some rain that's associated with a cold front. On the back side of that front, temperatures are going to be much colder, and we are going to see that drop in temperatures, especially for areas like the Upper Lake Melville area and then eventually coastal areas of Labrador as we head through the overnight into Friday morning. So Friday is going to be much colder. and then near Thursday. And then we will see that drop in temperatures as well as this front makes its way across the island portion of the province through the day on Friday as well. We are also going to see some shower activity. Some of that will be likely heavy at times, particularly for the west coast of the island. Then we've got another disturbance that will bring some rain to the Avalon as well. So keep that in mind. We're starting to see some snow in the long range forecast, particularly into Friday. That will be the story for Lab West. This will likely be, if it falls at all, will be very wet snow, but that chance is certainly there because temperatures are much colder than what we've been seeing. So down to 4 degrees as your daytime high in Lab City through the afternoon. Most areas across the Big Land will be sitting in the single digits. Going to hang on to the upper teens and low 20s for one more day through Friday for the island, with the exception of the northern peninsula. You'll drop down to the single digits as well, about 9 degrees. But yes, it is going to be unsettled. There'll likely be showers into the late afternoon for central areas of the island. But yeah, your temperature should reach about 20 to 22 degrees. And then as we head into Saturday, some more showers, at least to start the day on Saturday for most of the island up across Labrador. Again, dealing with the potential for some wet snow in the mix in Lab West. But that is about it. Daytime highs will start to drop as we head into the afternoon for the island, so down to about 10 to 13 degrees. Labrador again hanging out in the single digits through the day. And then as we look ahead to the long range forecast, we should sit in the 12 to 13 degree range through the weekend. Sunday at this point looks pretty nice with some sunshine, and then temperatures will rebound as we head into Monday. 18 degrees with a mix of sun and cloud through the day. Look at your overnight low on Monday night. 15 degrees. So we've got a roller coaster ride with temperatures. Same thing for central and western Newfoundland as we see our temperatures bump back up. We will see some rain arrive though as we head into Monday night for the west. And then for Labrador, overall showers, temperatures warming as we get into next week, but still 13 degrees. Western Labrador, you'll hang out around the 10 degree mark for your Monday. Our weather photo of the day taken in Gambo. This is a beautiful shot of the evening. Good night, Gambo. Thank you to Darlene for that photo. We love seeing them, and if you'd like to share them with us, you can do that by sending them to my Facebook page or emailing them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, that is fabulous, Darlene. Thank you so much for sending that in. And before we go, I just want to mention something on the CBC website, the local website. If you're going to be voting in the election and you're not really sure which party you want to vote for, there's a fantastic resource on cbc.ca/NL. It's an article called How Do Newfoundland and Labrador Parties Compare on These Issues? And it takes every party and says where they stand on issues like childcare, the environment. And so if you have things that are important to you, cost of living, that kind of thing, you can go through and see where all the parties stand on all of those issues. So yeah, it's on our website, and I was reading through it, and it's really good.
Very interesting.
Some help deciding who to vote for. All right, well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good night.